Well, Cait Hewitt is Policy Director at the Aviation Environment Federation. So is this, as some critics have suggested, just a load of old greenwash?
There are some alternative fuels that are more sustainable than others. It remains the case that 99.9% of aviation fuel is kerosene. The flight that's taking place today isn't going to change that fact. It's using fuel made out of waste that is very clearly not going to be possible to scale up sustainably in the future. So I think we need to have a bit more honesty in this debate. That would be helpful from our political leaders, and trying to pretend that the aviation industry is on the verge of decarbonising, and therefore no one needs to worry about the carbon impact of their flight is unhelpful in our view.
Scaling up is going to be the real issue, isn't it? I mean, this is just a tiny little fraction of what would be needed for the global airline industry to be effective.
That's part of the problem. The other big problem that we don't hear very much about is that when this fuel is burned in an aircraft, this alternative fuel made out of used cooking oil and other wastes, it actually emits at the tailpipe as much CO2 as kerosene. Now, the industry will say that doesn't matter because they've offset those emissions through the process of producing the fuel, using biomass. We're not so sure about that. So I think there's some really important conceptual questions actually still to be asked about whether or not we should be simply ramping up supply of this kind of alternative fuel. We're trying to avoid saying sustainable aviation fuel. We think that's an industry term. But they will tell you all that needs to be done is to produce more of this stuff. We're not so sure that that's the case.
There'll be lots of people who enjoy their holidays and travel economy who'll say, well, look, you're pouring cold water on our nice sunny holiday. I mean, you are, aren't you?
I wish I didn't have to do that. I mean, the reality is that we've committed to climate targets that are really important for all of our well-being, and the climate can't wait for the industry, for the aviation industry, to come up with better solutions than what we've got here today. So we should be talking about new technologies for the future, for sure, zero-emission aircraft, carbon capture, that kind of thing. But for now, the best way to cut emissions from aviation is to fly less. And, you know, there are lots of ways to do that for business. Obviously, these days, we've all got in the habit of using video conference much more. There perhaps isn't the same need for flight for some business meetings, and there has been in the past. And look, we can take holidays differently. So I think, you know, there are some important conversations to be had about how much flying is really compatible with the commitments that we've made on climate change.